Hi, it's Allan Pym from APOS, and really pleased to be here today with Rob Lightfoot from SAP. Rob leads the Global Unified Data and Analytics Solution Advisory Hub. And Rob, pleased to have you here today.
Alan, thanks very much. Yeah, it's an exciting time, I think, with everything data and analytics, all the announcements we've made in the recent history, and we have some great information to share with you, and obviously some things to really be aware of for those of you who are using BEx-based tooling. So, looking forward to sharing with you.
Yeah, so you and I had a conversation previously where we focused specifically on the transition of BEx and what's going on there. Today, we're going to put some extra emphasis on the topic of BEx Broadcaster. But let's turn first to what's been happening with Microsoft, what's been happening with BEx. So, give us a description of what's going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something which I think some customers were aware of, but there's a fair few out there that aren't too sure about this. But just to mention that we as SAP have a very large dependency when it comes to the BEx tooling, and half of the BEx tooling on specific Microsoft versions, Office 2016 and 2019, and they're actually ending the end of life essentially for these Office tools on October the 14th, 2025. That's obviously going to impact a lot of end users, but also importantly from an SAP perspective, it really impacts us as well because we have a dependency on those versions for BEx tooling. And very specifically, there are three tools in the BEx family which are impacted. So it's BEx Analyzer and BEx Workbooks plus BEx Broadcaster, right? So we just want to make sure that customers are aware of this, that there is an end of life coming for these tools also as a result of this Microsoft Office change in October. And we, of course, want to highlight what potentially customers can do in order to negate, obviously, really impacting the business if this is something that they're still relying on.
Yeah, so let's go straight into that because people who are using these tools that you've mentioned that are impacted, they're going to want to know where they go from here. And so talk us through that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to make a quick note is that there are these three tools that are impacted that are reliant on Office. There are three tools in the BEx family which aren't reliant on Office. For example, the Query Designer, BEx Queries, and the Web Application Designer. You can continue to use those for the foreseeable coming few years. But just to mention that they are also going to be impacted by end of mainstream maintenance in 2030, right? So something to just be aware of there, not to invest too heavily on those, right? It's something which is not part of SAP's strategic direction moving forwards. And really, for customers using these tooling, we have direct, if you like, one-to-one mapping between the BEx Analyzer and BEx Workbooks plus BEx Broadcaster, which we'll talk about. But the first two with analysis for Office. So it's something which you can use as also Excel-based. You can use it directly on top of the BW queries or the BEx queries. Then you've also got Excel add-in for SAP Analytics Cloud. This is the more future-proofed version, if you like, of analysis for Office with extra features when it comes to live connectivity to things like DataSphere, to things like Business Data Cloud. But it's not quite feature parity that analysis for Office has versus BEx Workbooks, right? So something to be aware of. And then, of course, we have SAP Analytics Cloud Stories. And this is really where you can build very, very rich visualizations, drag and drop dashboard experiences for business users. But again, it's not going to be a direct one-to-one with BEx. It's very future thinking in its vision. But there still will be some fantastic use cases you can build out with Analytics Cloud Stories without, again, rolling back to potentially the tried and tested with which you did with BEx. Okay, so I just wanted to make those things a little bit aware as to where we could potentially go with these tools.
Right, right. Okay, so you've mentioned about BEx Broadcaster, and that's really going to be our main focus here. So describe for those users who are using BEx Broadcaster what they're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. So this, of course, just to reiterate, is part of the BEx family where when we wanted to externalize BW data, we would use BEx Workbooks, BEx Analysis, Analyzer, and of course the broadcaster. And the broadcaster is all around how do we broadcast that out to the various different users, right? Whether it be through mail, the portal, or a printer. Now, there are workflows which are included within the BEx Broadcaster itself. And with the sunset, it's something which when there's not a one-to-one mapping with a specific tool set, can be quite tricky as to where we go with this, right? How do we make sure that specific users get the right information at the right time to make the right decisions? So again, something to be super aware of, especially when it comes to the end of mainstream maintenance or end of life in October 2025 of this tooling. So there are some options that we can go with BEx Broadcaster. And these replacement options include, of course, the Business Objects BI platform. We've got scheduling capabilities within that, and it supports, of course, Analysis for Office, which was the tool which we mentioned has a one-to-one mapping with Analyzer and Workbooks. There's Analytics Cloud publications. So this is where you can schedule very basic SAC stories out to specific users, and it includes some filtering capabilities. It includes some capabilities around distribution, but again, it's in its use case, it's much more kind of oriented towards mobile first, direct user queries and interaction from an Analytics Cloud stories perspective. And last but not least, we have our fantastic partner APOS, who are delivering the publisher for cloud. So this is the advanced scheduling for Airflow and SAC, which we'll see a little bit more of shortly. But suffice to mention that APOS are delivering a lot of different tooling, specifically around how business users interact with SAP data, whether it be through business objects or SAC or other means. And this is an area which really they've had some fantastic use cases across our customer base. So from that point, I'd love to hear a little bit more from Allan as to obviously what APOS Publisher for Cloud is all about and how it can really work to circumvent this issue that we've got with the broadcaster being sunset.
Yeah. So thanks, Rob. And I do want to share a bit more about this. So being able to address this challenge of BEx Broadcaster going away. Actually, the Publisher for Cloud has been around a much longer time than this. So the solution itself is coming up on 10 years in existence, and it's focused on automating the generation and distribution of user-specific content, and that being analysis for Office reports, SAP Analytics Cloud reports. So it's all about getting that information generated and distributed out to the right people in the right format and to the right destination. So scheduling and broadcasting, as I mentioned, though, it is for both the Analytics Cloud content and analysis for Office. So the majority of the solution's lifetime that I mentioned, that's been focused on the broadcasting of SAP Analytics Cloud stories. Over the last couple of years, we've worked closely with SAP product team to work on the analysis for Office side of things. So that's been a great outcome as well, to be able to support analysis for Office. Timing is very good because being able to support BEx Broadcaster users as they make their transition to analysis for Office or stories, that's really where that fits in. So some major themes about the solution are that this is a data-driven and dynamic filtering and broadcasting solution. So getting user-specific content so that one user only sees their data, another user only receives a report with their data. So that's an important factor here. Getting content into the right formats and destinations, whether that's email or FTP or a network file location, basically being able to support those kind of workflows. Formats, Excel being an important format, but PDF, PowerPoint, and others, those are quite key. And for the BEx Broadcaster conversation, that Excel support is something that is quite important. It involves really important time-based and conditional scheduling so that the reports can be generated and run at the right time. Um, from a BW upload perspective, that kind of conditional scheduling is important because it means that we can time the schedules to be executed on BW loads, those sorts of factors, as well as many others. The storage of reports, working directly with SAC, or scenarios where we have our own internal repository to help in the storage of those. But monitoring, alerts, really controlling the whole process, that's pretty important stuff to many organizations that we work with on this. So those are some of the key factors that we work with.
Brilliant, Alan. And you mentioned there obviously organizations working with this tool set. I know myself, some experiences within the retail community of customers wanting to distribute data out to thousands of stores potentially. So some fantastic use cases. Can you tell us a little bit more about what customers are able to achieve with APOS Publisher for Cloud?
Yeah, yeah, and you mentioned an interesting use case, and that sort of a retail scenario is one that has come up lots of times, but certainly not only retail. In fact, every industry this seems to pop up in one way or another. I'll mention one particular customer that we're working with that's involved in the production and distribution of bathroom products. Really interesting company. They're using both, or they were using BEx reports, and they're now shifting that to analysis for Office, but they're also using SAC stories. And they were going through the process of moving from BW to BW for HANA, and the replacement of those BEx Broadcaster needs to distribute the reports out. That was really key for them. And basically, in working together, they have deployed the Publisher for Cloud solution, and it's allowing them to get the unique user-specific reports generated in a very dynamic and data-driven way at the right times, and getting that content pushed out. Being able to send an Excel file as an attachment was a key requirement for them, and again, user-specific Excel attachments. So that's been a great outcome. They're able to distribute a notable volume of reports, which is really key for them in their adoption of SAC. And yeah, so it's been quite key, monitoring and having the process execute correctly, and knowing if there's any challenges. That was something that they were really focused on too. So Publisher for Cloud's been able to support those needs. Yeah. Um, I guess there's lots of questions that people will still have about where they go, not just with broadcasting, but even just the bigger question of other considerations around BEx in general. So, can you talk a little bit about some of those considerations and resources?
Thanks, Alan. Yeah, absolutely. So just be aware of what BEx tools are still in use across your organizations. There are tools available inside of BW itself, SE16 transaction. There are tools there that you can check, early watch tools, etc., where you can understand what's in place within the organization. We've got other external capabilities we can provide around the BW migration assessments from an SAP perspective for our customers, which also will flag up what's being used on the BEx perspective. And then, of course, you can validate your queries for the compatibility with Analysis for Office. There's also some services around that can help with that approach. Last but not least, there's the manual transition approach versus the mass conversion tool. And depending on how many of these BEx workbooks and BEx analyzers you have, it really depends on which is the correct approach. Generally, we recommend if you have a small amount of BEx based use cases, it's well worth to manually transition them just to see what can be done better or more efficiently in the newer tool sets, right? So something to just be well aware of. And of course, for a great place to go for all of the content and information on this topic, there is the APOS website /BEx. And this is where you can see a whole host of information around the BEx reports, and of course, APOS Publisher for Cloud is all listed within that. There's some brilliant blogs in there, just really detailing everything around this October end of life, which we know is coming, and what certain things you can do about it, right? So strongly recommend to go there. It's a great place where you can find all the information in one sitting. So, Alan, I don't know if you wanted to add anything on that topic.
Just a quick mention that yeah, we've tried to put a single page together that's got access to a number of really important resources. So yeah, check it out, and hopefully you can get the answers that you need. But of course, we know that your SAP contact points will be able to fill in additional blanks where needed. So, and critical that they do. Yeah. Rob, thanks for the conversation today, and we also had a previous conversation focused in more detail about all of the BEx options. So be sure to check that out as well. But for today, thanks for the great coverage on this topic.